Welcome to Not Strong.
This is a podcast for men about real challenges and real growth.
Life can hit hard. What do you do when the things you've always relied upon quit working?
When the way you've always handled things just isn't enough.
When your physical, mental, and spiritual strength are put to the test.
Do you push through, hold on even tighter?
Or have you learned how to surrender? And what does that look like?
We're here to explore the human spirit with you and share what it takes to press forward through life's greatest challenges.
To tap into something bigger than ourselves and live a healthier, happier, more fulfilling life.
Join us on the Not Strong journey.
Welcome to Not Strong. I'm Kurtis Loftus.
And I'm Tim Hamby.
Empowering the human spirit. We're on episode 11, Tim.
Yeah, we're raking them up now. Good. I like the last episode. I like the way it was produced and everything. Thought it was good.
We made it simpler.
Yeah.
I think the content flowed.
Yeah, I thought so.
We're learning.
Yeah.
I guess we get better at this as we go along, right?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Well, one of the things we have started is a prayer, and this is your day. You get to do the prayer. Start us off, Tim.
All right. Lord, we thank you for this time together, and we thank you for everybody that's out there listening. We're going to be talking about gratitude today, and we're certainly grateful for all the things you put in our life, and we ask you to remind us to enjoy those things even when life is hard sometimes, and we ask that you keep the conversation open and real today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Right. And so you've already let on that we are talking gratitude. We bring it up in our conversations, and it just made sense. It was like, my gosh, why don't we just talk about gratitude?
Yeah. I think every episode we mention something about it, and I just know it's so huge in my life, and I know it's so huge in yours. And it's one of the things that I really relate and connect with you on, because you've never been shy about expressing your gratitude for things. And I just think that's so powerful.
Thank you. And same back at you, Tim. You know, when we started this and met on what this might look like, how it would work, both of us never having done a podcast, just knowing that it was potentially worthwhile conversations that we could get into this dialogue about not just men and what we go through as men, but get a little vulnerable with each other, get open about some of our experiences, certainly with the cancer diagnosis, but that's kind of what really brought us together. But we've had so many things as we've gone through this process, and we keep going, wow, that's really crazy. You know, we're connected up in so many different ways. And so that's been especially cool to experience with you. But the gratitude, you know, we're on podcast 11. I think we've gone through a lot of different discussions that have been worthwhile, but this one's big, and we decided before even turning the mics on that we were going to try to go fast, even though we don't want to go too fast.
Well, you had an interesting exercise that you proposed today, which was creating a list of 20 things that we're grateful for, and just kind of running through the list. And I figured that's a fun idea.
Yeah, I figured we could go back and forth, and you know, if I hit on something on my list, I just go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, right? If I hit on something that's especially interesting, we'll dive in. But the other piece of this is, you know, we went to our research and we started finding out things and learning things that you might know already, stuff that it's almost an affirmation, right?
Yeah.
Of stuff you already understand. But for our audience, some folks may not live in that world of gratitude, or maybe need a kick in the butt. Right?
Yeah.
You know, let's look at this like a way that the human spirit finds itself refreshing or sort of realigning itself, because, you know, someone that like me that's been in recovery and spent a bunch of time in recovery, I can tell you straight up, the gratitude space is super important.
No, I totally agree with you. It's funny, you know, on this subject. You know, I used to write for the Inertia. I do a lot for the Action Sports website, surf and snow and stuff. And the first article I ever wrote for them, when the editor of that site, Zach Weitzberg, he was an intern at Surfer. He had worked his way up in their office, and there was some controversial article that he wanted to print, and they wouldn't let him do it because of advertisers, which he thought was ethically not a correct thing to do. And so he left, and he opened the Inertia and made it kind of like a Huffington Post where people could contribute content. So the very first thing that I submitted to him was an article called Giving Thanks. And he wanted stuff that was different, that wasn't about contests and wasn't about, certain personalities and different things. He wanted more real talk stuff, almost, a step removed from surfing.
Wow.
So I sent him this article called Giving Thanks, and it was about having to leave Thanksgiving we'd go up to Gretchen's grandma's farm in South Carolina, and so you'd be away from the beach during key swell time, right? Late November.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, it's like, man, I don't know, this is swell. But you get up there with family. Yeah. You get up there away from all the cell phones and this Black Friday, and it was awesome. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so I wrote about that, and the first article was about getting away from surfing and reflecting on gratitude. And it was funny that article got published the same day that Kelly Slater wrote an article, one of the very first articles for the site, and published on Thanksgiving Day. Wow. And so it was very off good. To a really good start. And anyway, he loved it and ended up writing a bunch about it. And in that article, I talked about statistics and what since living with a sense of gratitude could do for you mentally, physically, spiritually. Mm-hmm. And I have some of that information updated.
Perfect. And I think, again, you're tracking exactly the way I started tracking as I researched this, because obviously for me, and I mentioned just briefly, gratitude comes from a space where I think you have to have almost the other side of it for a while. Like, the only way I could put it is telling you a little bit about resentments that came from unmet expectations. You learn over time that life is tough, and as you move through it, and especially if you're self-starter or you're like entrepreneur like I am, if you get to a place where things aren't going quite the way you want them to go, or people aren't behaving, or whatever it is, you can find yourself, even if you're a hope-filled person, even if you have your sort of God conscious and everything else seems to be aligned, man, the world can still get a hold of you. And you end up sort of shifting your emotional, mental well-being into this other place of like, well, this, you get irritated, you get quick, all this stuff. And
that's a concept from recovery?
Well, they just lean into what is it's how we get to a place where we're at peace, where we're finally settling down and going, oh, okay, the world isn't going to give you everything. It's like that. And we are going to talk biblically too. St. Francis talks about wearing life like a loose garment, and it's true. You have to let things kind of settle the way they're going to settle and not get yourself so tied up into them. And gratitude comes in a lot more for me now.
It's interesting in the Bible. Gratitude's not a suggestion; it's a command. It's a command in the Bible to be grateful.
There you are. Things. There you are. So we get to do it, and here we go. List time, and I'll start.
Okay.
And I think we're going to probably end up finding ourselves with the same gratitudes. But my first one is just simply put, Jesus. I'm grateful for Jesus and his example.
Yeah, for the top of my list. God created me and called me to him.
All right, there we go. And then the second one for me is moving through addiction, which I know sounds, and none of these are going to be exactly in an order of like importance.
Yeah.
They're just, here they are. And I wrote them out and I kind of adjusted a few of them. But anyways, yeah. So moving through addiction and a surrender that came eventually, and acceptance. And I know I've spoken to that before, but super important that I, learn how to crush my ego and my pride and just really give it all to God. So that I'm just daily grateful for that.
Yeah. Well, I kept it on God as well, that he sent his son Jesus into this world, that he lived a perfect life for me so I wouldn't have to.
Right.
And, that he, the atonement that he did for me on the cross. He died for me, took away my sin, exchanged places with me, gave me eternal life. Right. So that's number 2 on my list.
And then okay, so let's, because we promised we'd dig in a little bit, and since both were, by the way, we didn't share our list, so we don't know what we're going to say.
We don't.
But so the Jesus example. And I know there's probably a few listeners that have no understanding who he is or maybe what he's about. It could be, but in recovery, one of the things that is super important is that there's a God understanding, if nothing else. Like, you're not, if you don't want to believe in anything, but just know that you're not God, that's kind of a premise that's super important.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So I love that idea because it actually reinforced Jesus in my head and heart better than anything that I could have imagined.
Grace.
Yeah. Jesus is, but his example was, to this day in my recovery, 11 years in, all I've done is I dig deeper, I learn more, and it's always an affirmation of his, his love for us.
And it's, the big thing about it is it's unmerited. We don't deserve it. We didn't do anything.
Right.
You can't earn it. You can't work for it.
Right.
It's just, it's freely given
It's mind-blowing.
us.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's got to be grateful for that. Free gift, free stuff.
well put. So, and then it's, third is kind of a living in a more honest, truth-oriented place.
Yeah.
That's that authenticity that comes from smashing
that's not
ego,
easy.
and crushing the ego. And some people, I've done a ton of reading, they have this sort of shadow self, this front that they put on, or they know is kind of that false self, right? And you end up, that identity or that thing starts to, at least for me, it started to go away. And I found myself more authentic, even if I knew I was, okay, Kurtis, you're a little impatient, but my impatience, it's my authentic self. I adjust, I correct. But boy, I tell you, man, if something spun me up back in the day because I was impatient, I would live in that for a while. I would. And now I let that thing go. It may take a few seconds or a minute or whatever, but that's what I'm grateful for as well, that I can, live in that.
And I mine's a little broader than that, but grateful for all the mental, physical, and spiritual gifts that God imbued me with, the particular characteristics of who I am. And again, not perfect by any stretch, but I'm grateful for who I am and my uniqueness. All the good parts and the bad parts, and the ups and downs in life, and I wouldn't change any of it.
Isn't that interesting?
And I know we've both had, one of the reasons we're doing the podcast, because we've lived through a lot, and ups and downs and stuff, and even with being diagnosed with a terminal illness, I wouldn't change one thing about my life. You learn through the hard parts, and you get better, and you just live authentically and honestly, and I appreciate the ability to do that.
Right. And people around you, because you're authentic, they're attracted to that, I think. And it provides a chance for growth that you didn't expect, because it almost works again opposite of what you imagined. What if I reveal my full self, my honest self? No one's going to like me. You could think, you could think that way. And there's a lot of that confusion that goes on in life.
I always respect everyone who I meet who lives authentically. Always have. And doesn't matter. They can be from any walk of life. They can have, face any kind of obstacles or have flaws, big flaws. It doesn't, if they're living authentically, I respect that.
And I'm doing the little rabbit hole with us here, but even with the cancer, which is something that you and I have kind of both talked about, you don't want it to be, you're hopeful that it's not like, well, this isn't my identity, right? This isn't who I am.
Yeah.
It's just this thing.
Yeah.
And I always, because I think I was fortunate, here we go again. I was fortunate to move through, this addiction thing and alcohol. I mean, I'm still an alcoholic, right? I can't go out and drink with you tonight because honestly, it will brain receptors, all this stuff starts to happen within me that guarantees me almost, a relapse. And I just know it. And I've tested it and there's no reason to test it anymore. And that's what you learn. And so just like that, not my identity, but it's something I know and something that actually has turned out to be pretty cool. It's on, I put it at the top of my list because it allowed me, forced me to dig deeper into what is my honest self, my truth. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, and I had something along those same lines. Well, I'm grateful that he healed me from cancer and kidney failure. It was a miracle.
Healing's on mine eventually. Yeah.
That I got through it this past year.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But also grateful for the experience and the growth that came out of it.
Yep.
And I just look back at it and say, there's positive things that have come out of this.
Oh, you find that there's no other way to behave, Tim. Really, honestly, you have to sort of find your honest self and be able to, hopefully, not everyone can do this. I get this. It's a very tough thing to move through because of the vulnerability. But, there's all the typical emotional things, fear and, worries and concerns and what does this mean and how's it going to look and long-term stuff. But what it does allow you to do is say, all right, I can't control any of that. And whenever you get faced with things you just are powerless over, that's what we say in recovery. Look, I'm powerless over this.
Yeah.
And you just go, all right, I get it. Now I've got to move forward, right? With all those positive things that I know I can sort of manage. And that's why gratitude's so cool. I think it's time for some data on gratitude because what does it bring up in a person's life? How does it improve a life?
Yeah. So let me see.
Yeah.
I pulled up some stuff on it. They say that gratitude actually rewires the brain.
That's what I figured it happens. Brain's an amazing thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, and how the body reacts to the emotions and the feelings and spiritual things that are going on. It manifests itself physically. Gratitude boosts dopamine and serotonin, and those are feel-good neurotransmitters. And when you're experiencing gratitude, it increases their output. And that, in turn, increases optimism and reduces anxiety. It improves sleep and reduces physical pain. and maybe that feeling of gratitude that, as I was going through it last year and praying a lot, meditating a lot, and reflecting in this, spirit of gratitude filled me anyway for many different things. The preciousness of life comes to the forefront. Those things, reduced physical pain. They improved sleep. They made it getting through these things that we were going through with treatment better and easier.
Yeah.
Other statistics, gratitude improves mental health. A study in the journal Personality and Individual Differences found that grateful people experience fewer aches and pains and report feeling healthier than others. People who practice gratitude are more likely to exercise and more likely, we've talked about this before, to attend regular checkups. Relationships, a study by the University of Georgia found that expressing gratitude strengthens romantic relationships, not surprising, and it increases trust and satisfaction.
I like that one. So, and I told you before the meeting, before like this sitting down thing. We do a meeting before the podcast. I went the opposite direction. And I wanted to see what happens to those folks that can't practice gratitude. Like, what if you're not living in a grateful spirit, grateful heart? What does that look like? What does that mean? Yeah, what is it? Well,
Tell me.
Yeah, so and the way I did this is I just used one of the words because they bring up several words, and if you're not living in gratitude, you could have resentment, you could be in a spirit of entitlement. Like, oh, I deserve these things. I should have all these things. You could be
discontent.
Yeah, thank you. Discontent. So here's a couple of it of the items. Keeps you stuck in the past.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is related mostly to resentments and living in resentment, but it can keep you stuck. Let's see. It erodes peace. Yeah. It erodes your peace. It poisons relationships.
Yeah.
Wow. It weakens the physical and emotional health, which you've already said, And again, it's as simple as where's your mind going to be, and where's your heart and head going to be today, And I get it. When things are tough, the way humans are built is, we're fear-based creatures, I think.
Yeah.
We really are. We're designed to respond to fear, and the way we do it is not to be, what we talked about last week. We're about self-preservation. We want to continue, right? Our goal is to have success and continue and move forward.
Yeah.
But it's built and structured around some false premises, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
And we get it backwards. And hopefully conversations like this let other men understand that, man, there's so much more strength and so much more opportunity when you are surrendering, when you are switching from, I'm going to be fear-based and I'm going to move into this gratitude environment where I can help myself because I'm looking at all the positive things. Even if it's a tough situation, I'm looking at the positive things that are going to come about if I move through this properly.
Yeah. And I think that, just like what you mentioned with, some people end up getting stuck in the past. Something they resent, something that happened to them, something that caused them pain. And man, if you hang on to those things, it ruins your future. And you got to let that stuff go. And that gets into forgiveness. Yeah. Which is another thing that we've touched on and probably need to go deeper into the future. But letting go of that stuff opens the door to being able to experience gratitude more fully and to live in the present, the present moment. That's the big gift, and not even really be looking too far forward, creating these expectations, for the future, but literally just to live in the moment. That's one of the things that, I tell you, I do these, Wim Hof breathing.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Methods in the morning.
I need to do that again.
What's that?
The only time I've done it is the night you sent me all that material, and I was like, well, this looks pretty cool, and I did it. It was fantastic.
I do it every morning.
Good for you.
But, when you're doing those exercises, when you're meditating and people do yoga and other different things, you're in that present moment, and there's nothing else, and that really, to me, that's a time when you can just open the door and appreciate the moment you're living in.
It makes sense.
The clear space and not dwelling on anything else.
I love it.
So that's a good exercise.
I look down and you know what my next one on the list is?
Yeah, where you at?
I'm at number. I may have skipped, but that's okay. We're gonna get to 5.
All right.
Hope.
Let me know.
Hope.
Hope.
I'm grateful for having hope again. I lost hope. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, that was one of those things where I did not have it for a while. Yeah. And when you don't have it.
When you say hope, the first thing that comes to my mind is the hope that you gain through faith in Christ. We have eternal hope. And even when things are at their very worst, you have hope in Jesus. I mean, that when I hear hope, to me, we're blessed to live with it.
But you have to, let's say this again for anyone that is not connected right now, does not have a relationship, knowing that there is hope. You know, you may not be able to define it, you may not be able to understand where it comes from, but it really does express itself in a way where
that is funny, because that's kind of a twist on what I was just saying, except now it's not getting stuck in the present.
Right.
You know, you have hope for the future. Your circumstances will change. They're guaranteed to change.
Yep.
Tomorrow's another day, a new opportunity.
That's right. And you can, what do they say sometimes? Living one foot in the future or 1 foot in the past, and totally blowing like your feet in the, you know, what the present is. You've got to enjoy today. And you have to, not have to, but you're hopeful that.
I know when I was lying, you know, in the hospital bed and having my worst moments of going through cancer, I had to have Gretchen there sitting by my bedside, reminding me that, you know, it's going to be better tomorrow.
There you go. Yes. Well, and now I'm going to jump down to a very important one, but it's not out of order. But having a lifelong partner.
Oh yeah.
Is that? I mean, I'm sure it's somewhere on your list.
It absolutely is.
But if you have someone that you're connected to, and they have that energy. That love that can
what a blessing that is.
Can just sort of support and hold, because you know we're men thinking, gosh, this has got to be all me and it's on me, and that's not the way it's going to go all the time. And you know, when someone's holding you up as well, and someone's encouraging you, or someone is there just with you,
when you've got that person. You know, and not only there for the lows, but for the highs.
All of it. To
share and celebrate those things with, just to travel through life with, and all
someone that knows you better than pretty much anyone is ever going to know you. Yeah. If it gets to that place where you're just like, okay, that's a pretty darn cool thing. Yeah. You know, got to be grateful for that.
Yeah, big time. And I've got, I had here, you know, I was grateful to God for leading me to Gretchen, you know, for her godliness, her love, her loyalty, beauty, you know, role as a wife, a mother, a caretaker, business partner, best friend, all that. Grateful for her family. You know, it's just, again, it's a blessing, and, you know, not everyone gets to enjoy that. So that's real. I'm really grateful for that.
No, it's huge. Yeah. It's huge. And then, you know, there's so many things that are allowed to transpire, can become greater in a life because you're supported and loved, and you feel all the benefits, or you experience those benefits. And I couldn't imagine not having Margaret. I could not imagine, you know, family is on my list. You know, it's an easy one. You go, I'm grateful for my kid. Yeah. And we could spend a whole show we've done it. We've sort of done the Father's Day thing. But when you have children that are close, they know you, they love and support you. When you have it's just the most extraordinary thing, especially if you've come from broken. You know, which that's kind of what I came from.
Yeah, and even within that that context of broken family, or family goes through divorce and other issues, and I've spoken.
Oh yeah, both of us have. Part of my gratitude is coming from broken.
Yeah,
I mean that's the interesting part about life and experiences that we have, because you go back and you go with that. I go back and I put things on my list that someone might think, "That's why are you grateful for that?"
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Well, Jiminy, if I didn't have that, I would not know the other side of it so well. I would not have such passion or such joy, such a commitment to this journey now because I understand it better. I learned through all these other tough things."
Yeah, and I was the same way. And even though I've explained it, I had a biological father, a father that raised me, and a stepfather, and I'm grateful for all three of those men. And not all of them are perfect all the time. None of us are, but in each one of those, I'm grateful for the things that they brought into my life, and for family and friends, life isn't always free. It's not perfect. Yeah. We're guaranteed that it's not going to be perfect, but there's so many parts of it that are. It's one of the things that a lot of people, when you talk about resentment, and this is one thing I always reflect on, is a lot of people blame God for all these bad things that happen in their life, and they resent God, don't have a relationship with him. And, I just always think that, okay, yeah, we got all these moments of pain and suffering and, that we go through life, but then there's all these moments of joy, and they're big ones and there's little ones. They happen every day, all day. And so if you're going to blame God for the bad things that happen in your life, then you need to give him credit for all the amazing things that happen in your life. Yeah. And, and be grateful for that. And when you really sit down and you start to reflect on it, how many more moments of joy you have in your life than vice versa.
Well, I shared, so we were working on topic for this, and I didn't know it was going to be gratitude until a couple of days ago. And I felt like where I was heading, because I've been spending time with my grandsons, this has been a really pretty cool summer, but I've been busy with work, and there's been some stuff related to our, the nonprofit that we launched just recently, some art in public space, and had children involved. And one of the kids that was involved was a quadriplegic, Madden, and I got to meet him the other day. It was Tuesday morning, and 12 years old, in a wheelchair, unable to move, body just not cooperating. Had a horrific diagnosis as a little boy. It's a genetic thing, and talking with his mom and his sister, and talking to Madden, but he had a trach and he wasn't going to speak, couldn't speak. But this whole project with art and create and bringing children into this experience and seeing Madden, I didn't feel sorry for Madden. I didn't feel anything but love and admiration for this boy, And my point is, when you live in gratitude, I think when you live in gratitude, you see life that way. You see what is still the beauty of life. What is still the qualities of Madden that are special, and you honor him, because it's like, there you go. There's another life, another spirit, another, young man he's moving himself forward.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
That's really, so inspiring. It's inspiring. And that's my point. It's like you go, wow, even in difficult situations, and I don't know. I'm not trying to pretend to know any of the hardships and the challenges that go on. All I know is I am aware and have a sense of this, spiritual grace that comes from all things, all things.
Yeah.
It's like we talk about the ocean, and we talk about, the kindred heart we have with all the things that are like watermen. And, when you're out in the ocean, when I'm out in the ocean and you see a dolphin, or I see when we see wildlife and we reflect on what it means, it's just like, oh man, the spirit of a dolphin, the spirit of a seagull. It's just like if you're able to, and you give yourself the opportunity to lean into the beauty, majesty, the awe of creation.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like you should just,
there's so much to be grateful for and stuff.
in everything.
In places
where you don't expect it.
Where you don't expect it, like that situation. There's there's one, couple at our church that I think of. They lost all three of their children, 3 sons, and to a genetic disease, all gone, in their teens and 20s. I can't imagine, I've lived through some difficult circumstances and stuff. I've never lost a child, and I can't imagine losing 3.
We don't want to,
but
do not want to.
This couple, they still live with a sense of grace and gratitude, and looking at seeing that, it's so inspiring.
Yeah.
For me, that someone can get through that. I
Tim,
can't imagine. That's it's just something that their experience in the way that they've handled it and reacted to it and stuff. It ripples, and it makes you learn that, man, I got a lot to be grateful for, and there's always someone who's got greater challenges than you. And facing more and dealing with different things, and you got to understand that.
Well, it's back to what I'm trying to. I think it's coming about with this conversation. It's like the opposite, like we've already shared, of not having gratitude. You could be in resentment, or you could be in expectation, or you could be in entitlement.
Yes.
And if you live in those spaces, well, I'm supposed to have great health, or I'm supposed to have these things, the 401k should be this, and I should have 2 cars in the garage, and blah 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 blah. You're like, no, not necessarily.
Yeah.
No. And by the way, if that is your whole purpose, then you've missed life. You've missed opportunities.
You're trapped in the world.
Trapped in the world. And it was interesting enough, because I did come from a meeting this morning. I do a daily, recovery meeting, and we were dialing in on not gratitude as much as just understanding what is what happens when you carry a light of sort of, we call it, it's attraction, not promotion in this world that we live in, because you're trying to help another alcoholic. Hopefully, I mean, that's the goal.
Yeah,
you get to recovery, and then you're like, well, go to meetings, trust God, help another alcoholic, serve the community, and that work only really happens if that other alcoholic, if that person sees in your eyes something they might want. Sees in your heart and your words and in the way you carry yourself something that
makes sense.
Yeah. So it's, hey God, it's I can't do this. It's going to be you, and when you do that, you're the light of his. You become his light, and that's what they see.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah, you can't, because it's funny.
It's part of God working through.
Part of the step, part of the work is unburdening yourself of all these kind of challenging, difficult things, so that it's your character traits or character flaws, whatever you want to call it, but so that you as a human, in a relationship, in interacting with another person, they see that gone. They don't even see it. They, like the beginning of the show, they see the authentic self that is. God reflected through you, not all the other garbage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's a pretty beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's attractive. It's how you end up helping other people.
Yeah.
Getting that mess out of your life.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's cool. It seems like that whole methodology would work.
It's so
outside
special.
of addiction. And for everything else,
I've said that since this, and again, it's the recovery world. When it comes to some of the methodologies, it's so beautiful. Richard Rohr, who I read quite a bit, he's a mystic. Let's call him a mystic. but a Franciscan monk that's been writing and publishing. He's got tons of books out there. He talks about recovery and specifically what would be AA. He says that particular program is Western society's largest gift to the spiritual faith realm, just because it's it's built on surrender.
Yeah,
and there's so many things that get you to that place where you just have to crush ego and move into a place of love and acceptance.
That's some real strong principles that it's built on.
Yeah. And then it has those 12 principles that if you even look at them, you're like, I can't do any of those really that well. Anyways.
All right. So going on back to the list, I had, family and friends is a given. And, I had the ability to help create two beautiful daughters. And we talked about that on Father's Day. Grateful for who they are. I've got on this list my work, my job, in the one I'm in currently, and in all the jobs that I've held, the ability to work, the people that I've worked alongside, that I had a business, those people who helped me build it, the people who trusted me to do work for them, and just the ability to do the things that I enjoy doing.
Yeah, I wrote it up as I'm grateful for my creative spirit, the way I think, the way I like to work. I love solving problems. That whole opportunity to express that way.
Yeah.
I'm so, but there was a time when I hated it. See, I get to say that out loud.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's like when I was in that awful place of, burdened by my talent or burdened by the work and the people and all that, it worked exactly the opposite. It was like, I do not like this. I do not like art. I do not like creating.
It's not good for me. It's not healthy.
I don't like the people. It's all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, what am I supposed to do with my life? And then all of a sudden, there's a couple resets and some, really pretty tough things you go through, and you don't die. You don't end up, in a place where it's so unrecoverable that you can't, see a light or an end of the tunnel, So coming out of that, and this is another one on my list here.
And go for it. Awesome when you come out of that, and you rediscover the joy of why you're doing. You're not chasing the dollar anymore, or
simple
getting distracted with these other things, but just the pure joy that you get from creating.
Yeah, yep. That and you see the value in it again. You see that it is a really kind of I won't call it necessary, but the work has value, and you realize that because you're in the creative realm, you're sort of managing things that are a lot of times brand new. You may be basing it on some kind of proposal or thing that's been modified, and you gotta pitch an idea that might be we've done this a couple times before, but it's brand new to a situation, into a business, and all of a sudden these folks are going, well, thank you, because you're helping. You're moving some.
And we are both in the creative realm, marketing and design stuff, but it applies to every different kind of job. And I've had many of them.
Yeah.
And if it's carpentry or if it's law, or if it's finance, or the things that you're gifted with that you love to do, and it just applies to all of that, and really being able to let yourself experience the joy of doing it. And
so you ready for this one?
This
dovetails into it.
What's that?
This dovetails into exactly where we're at right now.
Okay.
How about having that childlike spirit still?
Having what?
Childlike spirit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you can keep that, that's awesome.
You might lose it. You might get it back. But you and I both probably agree that as boys, there's probably some really special things going on in our lives with surfing and with adventure and exploring.
Yes.
Just being boys and not being reckless as much as just the awe of nature. The awe of the wonderment, the wonderment.
Things.
First time, doing this for the first time, seeing something for the very first time, and having that wow, wonderment. Just have wonderment.
I still have that sense of wonderment.
We get it
all the time about when I'm outside and in the natural world.
But gratitude has to play into that. Yeah, if you're not grateful, then while you're in nature, you're missing it. There's a good bet you're missing it. I'd be out on a stand-up paddleboard, Tim, and I don't know how many miles I put into the stand-up paddling out there in the intercoastal waterway. 6 a.m, sun rising, and it's that just before it breaks the horizon, the light and all that, and just clouds and anything. I mean, it could be that little fish that breaks the surface of the water, and you're just like,
if you can keep that, that's that sense of wonder and the childlike optimism, and that there's no bounds. If you can keep that throughout your life, I mean it's a powerful thing. And I always joke with my kids. I used to tell them I had a Peter Pan complex.
I've heard that one.
Didn't
before.
want to ever grow up. And but it also ties into that, just enjoying living life with a sense of sort of childlike wonder.
You have to imagine again, especially men. We share that. I think we share that real sort of passion.
Of course, you can go overboard.
Oh yeah.
On that side of things too.
Oh, I know. But we're explorers at heart. We're we just. I think I'm overqualifying, but I bet most men in their DNA are just, we want to learn and explore.
It's funny that you're saying that, because it's right here next on my list.
Yeah.
Surfing, travel, and adventure.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Those things, I'm so grateful for all of them, and
that you did them, still do them, still.
Yeah, and one of the things that I love about surfing is you can do it your whole life. Of course, I'm struggling a little bit with the neuropathy, trying to correct that part so that I can enjoy it to its fullest. But I'll always be doing it in some capacity, grateful for all the years I have been doing it, and all the time spent in the ocean, all the time traveling to other places, seeing different cultures, and the beauty and diversity of the world. Man.
Well, we live in an extraordinary, if you see it from back to that childlike energy where you're just, it's so special. It's exquisite. It's like, how does this all happen? How does this work?
I used to think, especially mid-career, mid-30s, when I had my marketing firm, and it was, on the way right up. And I used to wonder about, do people look at me and think that because I'm so into surfing at the same time, do they look down on that? Is it considered too juvenile? And I thought about that, for a bit of time, and was it going to hurt my professional career to be this closely associated with surfing? And I didn't care. I ended up. I mean, that's where I landed. I could care, So, and just some of the smartest, most creative people that I knew were surfers, and doctors were surfers. But I always wondered if some people will look at me and go, that's childish, that's immature. Why is he out on a skateboard in the cul-de-sac at age 37 or whatever?
How about age 64? I was skating the other day with a dog.
Yeah,
I was, and I was like sending video to my oldest daughter, like, hey, I took Ross out for a walk, but it wasn't a walk. It was K-Paw on a skateboard behind the dog. With the dog, because I didn't want the dog pulling me. That's one thing I wasn't going to do. That dog and I were flying down the road. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, this is the way we do it.
I think that's the perception of that has evolved over the years, and it's become more acceptable, and more adults got into it. And certainly after COVID, adults, really started getting into it.
Well, we know, and I've told any one of my, I'll just say, men that I mentor, that part of the deal is you can't just do your recovery. You shouldn't just rely on this thing up here being all that it happens to you through recovery. You've got to exercise the mind's always going to work, right?
Yeah.
Best it can. Depending on my mind's kind of goofy sometimes. Yeah. But the idea of running and exercising and being out in the world, walking, whatever it is, get yourself, out and just breathe and appreciate simple things, and you will start to impact everything else. And
you got to make time for
systems
it.
will change.
For it. I remember growing up and getting married with Gretchen, and we consciously said, we're gonna travel. We're gonna go 2 new places every year, and we prioritized it and made it a point to do it. And it's one thing when I look back on my life, where did all the money go?
Well, it's all right.
And I'm like, there's some things in life that I will never regret spending money on. And,
no.
One of those is traveling.
And
getting out and
So I've discovered there's ways to still do that, Tim. Travel with very little money.
No, we always did it that way.
So I know I'm not a big cruise guy, so we'll never do any of those kind of. Margaret isn't either. I'm not huge into I like to get to the place. I'm not a big we're gonna take 20 days to get to a spot. It's like, here's where we're going to go. And if it's a trip that has 6 things involved that are all great destination spots, I'll do that. Ireland was that way. We went to Ireland. It was only 6 days, but my gosh, we put 800 plus miles on that car.
We do the same thing. That's how we do all our trips.
We were hitting so many.
Stuff in as much experience as you can.
We were hitting so many great spots. It was amazing. And then we were like, well, if we wanted to go back to any one of these, we now know 2 places we might like to go back to and spend like 3 days, 4 days. But it's always planned so that we get as much experience as possible, that we enjoy and see what we can, but it's never
affordably as you can.
Yeah, but it's never. Oh my gosh, we're gonna sit. I've never got the concept of cruise. I'm sorry, people that are cruisers. Big, ocean cruise lines and stuff like that. Because I know they're, I know they're big.
I've been on one before.
Yeah, and some of them like Alaska would be extraordinary. Maybe go see Alaska, but being stuck on a boat for 10 days and being around thousands of people and everyone is to their own likes, to their own wishes. But boy, I tell you, mine is literally, I love nature. I love seeing, new geographical sort of love. I got to get to the Grand Canyon.
You want to be out in it on your own schedule, doing other things.
I got one for you, by the way.
Okay.
How about empathy?
I'm
grateful that
so powerful. To me, it's what makes good marketers, is having a strong sense of empathy. And that's another thing I wrote about actually for the inertia, and seeing it in my children. And I think it was my youngest, Kaylin, who I think it was a movie, the one with Bethany Soul Surfer. And
right, Soul Surfer.
And she was asking about a scene in that when she was, I think she was feeling sorry for herself. She gave her surfboard away to someone. She couldn't ride it. She got frustrated. She heard, someone came up and was talking to her. Here, you take my board. And she came to me after that movie. Why'd she give away her board? And we started talking through it, but where it was coming from was she was feeling sorry for Bethany. She, and she had a sense of empathy that she was showing for her, and putting herself in her place and trying to process. And anyway, I wrote an article about that.
It's interesting. Yeah,
it's just such an important quality, and both my children have it. My mom had it. I think I've got a good sense of
you do.
it.
Yep, you do.
but it's just so powerful, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's one of those traits that can be lost, or you can get selfish and self-motivated and so locked in, and the world is misery, and you don't even see outside of yourself again, and you don't understand other pains, you don't understand other people's situations, you don't care, you don't even look at it, and it's all about you, or it's all about all the things that matter in my little sphere. And we again talk about that in the program, because you got to worry about yourself, right? You have to pay attention to yourself, and it's about valuing and loving, and just understanding that you're loved. Back to the very start of this, that you are loved, but then being able to serve, and be able to see a need and be able to understand how you can support, or furnish the right kind of support, so that someone else might be
by being able to put yourself in their shoes mentally,
right. And even if you need to, at times you go ahead and address it in a more like meaningful way, and now you're serving a community, because you realize that space requires that part of the community is been disenfranchised. They need support. It's just really so important, because it brings gratitude back, or the gratitude comes out of that empathy. It really does. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. You hear it all the time when someone in our program helps another, and then they share about it. They're always saying they think I'm helping them, but really they're helping me.
Amen.
It's really what ends up happening. It's like, it happens more often than anything else. You'll be sitting there listening to a story, and someone will just say, wow, I got a call from my sponsee, and they were just like, and it came out of the blue. I hadn't heard from them in 2 weeks, and they called me, and they're just having a really hard time, and blah, blah, blah. And we're on the phone for an hour, and he has no idea, the sponsor has no idea how much it helped the person, bringing back some, that empathy, that understanding, the knowledge, the stuff that
the whole idea of mentorship, and being a sponsor and helping them, that someone can relate to these feelings that you're having, these issues that you're going through.
They're real.
I've been there, been through them.
Real.
I understand it. It's so.
But it
helpful.
helps. It helps.
But it helps. Yeah, helps out the other person.
Bigger than they know. So I think
100%.
I've learned empathy is a really, really wonderful trait, attribute that I almost lost. Ever was gone, and it's nice to have it naturally, not force it. It's just there, and it serves us well, because back to how the body responds to it, how you physically actually respond to it, emotionally, spiritually. Everything is such a wonderful response, because you allowed and permitted yourself to be empathetic. So that's pretty cool.
And just FYI on that note, I did just want to mention, a couple of places we touched on at the beginning, and we'll
go for it.
We'll wrap up the list after. But regarding the biblical perspective,
true.
I just wanted to read a couple of these verses that we had dug up in 1 Thessalonians 5:18. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:6-7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation with thanksgiving present your requests to God, and the peace of God will guard your hearts. And then in Psalm 104, enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise to his name. It really is a spiritual weapon, that you have, you can wield to realign your focus, to help other people, and
Well, and put you in all of that brings us to our best selves. You know, it allows you and I to be, when we're in gratitude, we're stronger. You know, when we're here exploring these ideas and talking out loud, communicating them, understanding there's obviously so much shared between us and our beliefs and just hopes that I know a discussion like this is powerful in so many ways. Things that are, I bet right now my body and what is it? How many different things have fired off from just a purely physical standpoint? Mm-hmm. You know, the cortisol, or no, it's not that one. What is the main hormones that are firing off right now?
What were they? Dopamine and serotonin.
There it was. All right.
And I've got that on my list. Grateful for you, Kurtis, and grateful to be able to do the podcast with you. And,
I had 70s music.
What's that?
70s music. I'm grateful for 70s music.
Oh, yeah. I've got music on here, and hey, I'm a music nut. And I'll add to that. I'm also grateful for 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. I don't know, but yeah, particularly love the 70s and 80s. Glad that I came up in that era. And I can't even tell you music. And I have other things on this list.
I almost was like, do I put that on there?
I've got sports and competition, and being involved in them and watching them. Jags and Gators and all those things. But music, man, I am a music nut.
It's good.
So I've got that too. But so I had you and this podcast on my list, and for the opportunity to be able to do that, and I hope it's a blessing to people out there who to see it.
If you're a young man and you're looking at a couple old farts talking about gratitude, and you're like, that doesn't mean much to me. I believe that the same energy that we expressed today in why it's important, it's built on that 30-year-old man, that 20-year-old man. We've known it since we were boys, that this is an extraordinary life, and that there are so many really simple things to just be in awe of and just be thankful for. And we get to do that. And if, we're old men behaving like, little boys, I think it's okay. It's
every stage of life, if it's 20s, 30s, 40s, they're all different, and they all bring different things. They all bring different challenges. They all bring different opportunities, and they all bring a million things to be grateful for. Every phase of life. And
so we're grateful for our Creator, for God, for Jesus, and for again, I'm grateful for you, Tim. I appreciate you doing this with me. It's so much fun. I'm looking forward to one day we will have someone between us.
Joe's coming, so he's on vacation this week, but we're hoping to get him maybe by the second week in July. He had promised sometime in July he's going to come in, and I told him, so you get to be first. Anyway, we're going to get him in here, and that'll be fun.
All right. Are we good? You feel like we got most of it done?
I think so, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. This has been Not Strong, Empowering the Human Spirit. My name's Kurtis Loftus.
I'm Tim Hamby.
And we'll see you in a week.